and I know the truth. You think I'm gonna let you shit on Bernie and then come get me? I'm the next king? Fuck you.
Katt Williams opened his mouth, and the industry flinched. In a now viral rant, the comedian did what most fear. He named names, no metaphors, no dancing around. He said it plainly. Bernie Mac was scared, and not without reason. According to Katt, Bernie wasn't just cautious. He was terrified of Diddy, of Clive Davis, of the system they represented. To the world, Bernie Mac was bold, loud, and fearless. But behind that trademark bravado was a man quietly dodging shadows. Not because of paranoia, but because he'd seen what the rest of us never would. Katt didn't just speak for himself. He cracked open the door to a deeper, darker story. One about power, silence, and the price of not playing along. And at the center of it all was Bernie Mac, a man who made the world laugh, while privately wondering if every laugh was his last. You've heard of Bernie Mac, the sharp-tongued, no-nonsense comic who lit up every room with his energy. But what if behind those iconic punchlines was a man who was terrified, not of failure or fame, but of what he'd seen behind the curtain? According to Katt Williams, Bernie wasn't just another entertainer. He was a man haunted by the truth, haunted by the names he dared not say out loud until now. There are rumors that swirl around Hollywood, whispers of secret parties, backroom deals, and powerful people who make or break careers with a single call. Most comedians joke about the industry. Bernie? He warned us. Through coded language, through nervous laughter, through silence. What if Bernie didn't die of natural causes? What if he knew too much and feared he was next? Bernie Mac was never just a comedian. He wasn't trying to please everyone, and he wasn't afraid to offend. But what most people don't realize is that behind the comedy was a man deeply aware of how the entertainment world really worked. He'd risen fast, appearing in films, hosting his own show, joining elite comedy circles. But the higher he climbed, the more uncomfortable he seemed. He'd crack the code, but instead of celebrating, he grew cautious, reserved. He began dropping strange remarks in interviews. He'd talk about evil in the industry, not metaphorically, but as if he'd seen something he wished he hadn't. Friends later revealed that Bernie had grown increasingly disillusioned with Hollywood's power structure. He'd seen the gatekeepers. He'd been invited into their inner circles, and he wanted no part of it. Bernie had reached a level of fame that allowed him access, rooms where deals were made, careers were shaped, and secrets were traded like currency. But what he saw didn't inspire him. It disturbed him. There were things you weren't supposed to talk about: rituals, humiliation, spiritual manipulation, even blackmail. And Bernie, with that fiery Southside Chicago spirit, wasn't the type to keep quiet. That made him dangerous. But he wasn't reckless. He never named names directly. He'd joke, drop hints, then quickly pivot, as if he knew that to speak too clearly would be a death sentence. He'd seen what happened to others who tried. And though he kept smiling on stage, something behind his eyes had changed. The man who made millions laugh was holding on to something serious, something terrifying. Katt Williams isn't afraid of controversy. He's the kind of comic who lights matches just to watch the fire expose what's been hidden. So when he spoke about Bernie Mac, not as a peer, but as a man who was scared, it shook people. This wasn't comedy anymore. It was a warning. In one of his most viral rants, Katt didn't hold back. He didn't just say Bernie Mac was talented. He said Bernie was targeted, that he knew too much, saw too much, and feared specific names: Diddy and Clive Davis. These weren't just powerful figures. They were, according to Katt, untouchables. The kind of men who don't need to silence you publicly, because the system does it for them. "You think I won't say something?" Katt shouted, his voice cracking not from humor, but from urgency. "Y'all been f***ing with me for a long time." He wasn't threatening the audience. He was addressing the invisible forces that, in his eyes, took Bernie out. Forces that used fear, humiliation, and silence as weapons. Katt wasn't just talking. He was testifying. He hinted that Bernie Mac had been approached, invited into those infamous rooms. The secret gatherings where stars are allegedly initiated, filmed, controlled. Bernie said no. And according to Katt, that refusal marked the beginning of the end. Bernie wasn't just frozen out of Hollywood. He was being watched. There was something different about the way Katt spoke about Bernie. It wasn't just reverence. It was grief laced with rage, like he'd lost someone not to illness, but to something far more deliberate. "I'm the next king," Katt declared, as if claiming a title left behind by a man who paid the ultimate price for not playing the game. What Katt implied wasn't just that Bernie died, but that Bernie was removed, quietly, efficiently, as a message to others. Bernie Mac's fear wasn't isolated. In fact, once you step back and look at the bigger picture, you start to notice a disturbing pattern. Time and time again, the industry's most vocal, most rebellious stars, those who dared to challenge the system, met eerily similar fates. Take Tupac, a man who didn't just rap, he prophesied. He warned us about surveillance, control, and how record labels were more interested in obedience than artistry. He accused powerful men of exploitation, questioned their motives, and swore he was being watched. Months later, he was gunned down in Las Vegas. Officially, it was a drive-by. But to this day, no one's been held accountable. Then there was Michael Jackson, a global icon who reached the top and then started naming names. He called out Sony. He spoke about hidden racism and artist manipulation. He accused executives of exploiting Black talent while controlling the industry's narrative behind closed doors. Suddenly, he became crazy, unstable, and shortly after, he was gone. His death was ruled a medication mishap, but his closest allies still raise eyebrows when asked about what really happened. And of course, Whitney Houston. Once America's sweetheart, she spiraled into addiction, became tabloid fodder, and was ultimately found dead in a hotel bathtub on the night of Clive Davis's pre-Grammy party. The show went on. The party didn't stop, and those who questioned the timing, labeled conspiracy theorists, and dismissed. But here's the thing. All three, Tupac, Michael, Whitney, had started speaking out. All three had challenged power, and all three died under cloudy, suspicious circumstances. Is that just coincidence? Bernie Mac saw these stories unfold in real time. He watched legends fall, not because of talent, but because they dared to pull back the curtain, and he realized the truth. Hollywood doesn't silence you with bullets anymore. It uses isolation, humiliation, or, when needed, a quiet, clinical ending. Bernie wasn't paranoid. He was observant. And what terrified him wasn't just what happened to others, it was the gut-wrenching feeling that he was next. Whitney Houston's death still doesn't sit right with many. Found face down in a bathtub just hours before Clive Davis's Grammy party. Yet the celebration continued. To some, it was a tragedy. To others, it was a message. Bernie Mac had seen too much. He reportedly knew details about Whitney's final days, whispered through industry circles. He was disturbed by what he heard, especially about her ties to Clive Davis, the same man Bernie feared. Whitney had been trying to escape. That much was clear, but you don't just walk away from the machine. And Bernie? He saw the pattern. He connected the dots, and that terrified him. Bernie Mac didn't just fear Clive Davis, he feared Diddy. To outsiders, Diddy was the flashy mogul, the life of the party. But to Bernie, he represented something darker. The rumors were everywhere. Secret parties, hidden cameras, blackmail, and silence bought through fear. Katt Williams claimed Bernie knew what happened behind closed doors. He knew how power worked and how it punished disobedience. Bernie wasn't just avoiding parties, he was dodging traps. And Diddy? He wasn't just powerful, he was protected, untouchable. That's what made him dangerous. As Bernie's fame grew, his energy changed. On stage, he was still electric. But off stage, and sometimes between jokes, his words grew heavier. He stopped laughing at certain questions. He'd pause, look around, then say things like, "This business, it's evil." He wasn't joking anymore. In interviews, he'd make cryptic comments about how fame comes with a cost, about how some people don't just die, they disappear. It was subtle, but chilling. The closer he got to Hollywood's core, the more disturbed he became. He wasn't performing fear, he was living it. Bernie Mac was invited in, but he didn't play along. He refused the parties, the rituals, the compromises. While others smiled, networked, and submitted, Bernie stayed grounded. That made him a liability. Katt Williams claimed that after Bernie said no, things changed. Roles dried up, calls stopped. The machine began erasing him, quietly. He didn't bend, didn't sell out. And in Hollywood, that's not brave. It's dangerous. Officially, Bernie Mac died of pneumonia. But for someone who was recovering just weeks earlier, everything unraveled too fast. His widow believed it could have been prevented. She even sued the doctor who treated him that day. 9 hours in an office, unstable vitals, no 911 call. But in Hollywood, pneumonia doesn't always mean what it sounds like. Some say it's code, a quiet way to cover something louder. Bernie was gone, just like that. And to many, the timing felt less like tragedy and more like strategy. Then came the poison claims. Diddy's former bodyguard said Jamie Foxx was poisoned and that he reported it to the FBI. He claimed he, too, was targeted, poisoned 3 times. Cyanide, pneumonia, again and again. And then there was Kim Porter, Diddy's longtime partner, said to be writing a tell-all book. She died of pneumonia just before it was finished. Sound familiar? Bernie saw the pattern. He knew too many people collapsing right when they found their voice. And he feared he'd be next. Because in this game, when you stop playing, your time runs out. Diddy, Clive Davis, these aren't just celebrities, they're kingmakers. They build stars. And sometimes, they bury them. Bernie Mac didn't want their throne. He wanted the truth. But in Hollywood, truth is the most dangerous thing you can hold. He dropped hints. He walked the line. He tried to survive by staying just quiet enough. But maybe even that wasn't safe. Now, Bernie is gone. And the questions remain. Did he know too much? Was he silenced before he could speak? Or did he simply become one more reminder that in the world of power and secrets, speaking up can cost you everything?